On today's Apple Daily, Apple doesn't make computers. What goes next after iPhone chargers? Mini LED iPad Pro prices. iPhone or Mac? Make a choice. Mac Mini Colours, MacBook Colours, M1 versus iMac, and final Cut Freebies.
For the latest Apple news, rumors, and leaks, every weekday at 12 UTC, join us in the iCave.
I'm iCaveAnswers, and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. If you want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours every weekday at 12 UTC, like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so that you can join the notification squad, and more on that later. But let's get straight into the main event. Apple doesn't make computers.
What you doing on your computer?
What's a computer?
I think when Apple put out that modern classic advert for the iPad Pro, it was much truer than everyone thought. With the advent of Apple Silicon, it's very much time to reconsider what the company, which notably changed its name from Apple Computer to simply Apple in 2007, actually does. Notably, it was the same event that Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone, Macworld Expo of January that year. But Apple Silicon is a much bigger paradigm shift than I think it seems to be on the outside, and I think that's intentional on Apple's part. Part of the reason that they kept exactly the same designs for these Macs as they've had in the past. Looking at what Apple sells today, especially from the big headings on Apple.com, we're looking at Mac, iPad, iPhone, Watch, TV, and music. And I guess they sell support too if you include AppleCare Plus. It's clear that Apple is transitioning towards the new business model, which involves music, video, fitness, gaming, and more via subscriptions, and it seems like no one has an issue with those things. The costs are pretty low compared to the rest of the market, and actually the quality is really good. It looks like in addition to iCloud storage, Apple may also be adding subscription options for more of their premium software too, specifically their pro apps like Final Cut and potentially Logic, Motion Compressor, and MainStage. It would be interesting if they brought back something like Aperture as well to give more of a pro version of Photos, though most of the functionality of that is now rolled into the Photos app itself. And speaking of Photos, Apple does include a lot of really great software with every Mac that would cost you a small fortune to assemble elsewhere. Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, the iWork suite, is excellent, way more intuitive than the competition, whether from Microsoft Office, which is paid, or any of the free Office suites. The iLife suite, iMovie, GarageBand, and Photos are great too. GarageBand has brought you all of the music that you hear on this channel, all made by me, all using the built-in loops in about 15 minutes. So, I'm no musician, but I have unique music that won't have any copyright issues anywhere, I hope, and it was quick and painless to make. iMovie has also been used to edit a few of the channel's videos as well, and it's a great piece of software to get to grips with editing as long as you're not trying to do anything too crazy, but the vast majority of people who buy a Mac aren't doing anything crazy. But all of that software and services shows that the people who say that Apple is making devices that can't be upgraded so that you have to buy another are completely wrong. Apple wants you to use their hardware for as long as possible, and if you happen to be someone that needs the most cutting edge performance, they want someone else using your hardware when you aren't anymore. Services are where Apple will make the majority of their revenue, not hardware. On the Mac side, for example, Apple has around a 38% profit margin, if I remember correctly from the last earnings call. That means that a base Mac Mini, they should make around about $260 from a $700 purchase. Not bad, but their margin on services is much, much higher, and actually increases the more members they get. So Apple One Premium subscription will return a revenue of $360 every year, with much less disappearing in costs over a typical, let's say, 4 years that someone owns a product from Apple. It's clear that Apple would want them to keep using it and their services for as long as possible. But back to hardware, which is the focus of this piece. Apple doesn't make computers in the traditional sense, like a PC, where it's a collection of off-the-shelf parts that you assemble and you can switch parts out as you go. They make appliances that complete the tasks that your computer used to, whether that's an iPad or an iPhone or a Mac. When you buy a toaster, not many people are then a year down the line browsing for uprated heater coils, high-lift bread cradles, or a faster crumb tray. You're buying a toaster, the one that you want, and then you're using it to toast bread until it either doesn't do toasting bread anymore in the way that you want it to, or you decide that you like the idea of being able to toast bagels as well now, and so you get a more appropriate toaster for your new needs. Now, I get that a Mac is a bigger investment, but it's a tool to do a job. Buy the best tool you can for the job and it will last you well, but when a better tool comes along, it's a much better idea to get that new tool than try and attach bits to your old tool to make it keep up. There's a reason that cheap used cars look terrible and won't work very well when people try to add big exhausts, bonnet vents, and wheels that really don't fit. They're still old and past it under the hood. Apple's What's a Computer advert made a brilliant point, that we should stop thinking of our devices as a computer and let them be whatever they need to be at the time, whether they're a video editing suite, or a music production studio, or a research tool, or a newspaper, or a TV, or a radio, or even just a canvas to paint on. Macs, iPads, and iPhones let you create whatever you want to, and the technology gets out of the way, or at least it should, and they're moving closer to that all the time. I don't want to be reminded that my Mac is working super hard by the sound of an aircraft taking off on my lap. Silent running is really underrated. I know this is kind of more of a video essay, but it was something that came up in a Facebook chat that I was talking to someone about earlier today, and it wasn't even that this came as a fully formed idea, but that he was complaining that you couldn't upgrade things and you can replace RAM, and like, I get it. Why not just use what you buy and then get something different later? It makes much more sense. Move on what you have to someone else. They keep their value. It just makes far more sense to buy something that comes as a unit that works together properly, rather than trying to troubleshoot, why isn't my RAM seated properly, why isn't my hard drive working. The point of Apple stuff is it's supposed to get out of the way and let you do your job, and that's why the integrated way that Apple works together. And when you start getting more stuff into this ecosystem as well, it works even better. But let me know your thoughts on whether you actually care about all of this stuff. Next up, Notification Squad, and our newest member is Gaspard. If you would like to get a shout out like Gaspard in our next video, all you need to do, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you ring the bell so that you can join the Notification Squad. And at that point, you need to just post up #Notification Squad down in the comments of this video so that I know who to shout out. And into iCaveAnswers, Cario54321 asks, could Apple remove the keyboard and mouse from the iMac? Now that's a really interesting question, because I don't think anyone's really considered, following Apple removing the charger from the iPhones, what other accessories might Apple remove? Now there is definitely precedent for Apple selling computers that don't include a keyboard, a mouse, or a trackpad, because they don't with a Mac Mini, they don't with a Mac Pro. So actually, from that point of view, I think this is actually a realistic idea that Apple might do in the future. It actually makes a lot of sense, because a lot of people do have their own keyboard and mouse. A lot of people do prefer different keyboards and different mice over what Apple provides. A lot of people prefer to have a mechanical keyboard. A lot of people prefer to have a optical mouse that has actual clicky buttons, or that has macro buttons that you can add your own functions to. A lot of people prefer basically anything over the Magic Mouse that you have to charge from underneath. Yeah, it actually makes an awful lot of sense that Apple could do that, because again, a lot of people that are buying an iMac are probably trading up from another Mac of some sort, certainly from another desktop computer, and will probably have their own stuff. Now, I think Apple really likes the fact that when you buy an iMac, you get the nice looking keyboard and mouse or trackpad. And the trackpad adds so much functionality that most mice can't, because of the gestures that you can use in macOS, the fact that it's got Force Touch and things like that included. That's the only thing that would kind of throw that off for me, because again, the Magic Mouse has got the sideways scrolling and all that sort of stuff on the touch surface. But it's definitely a possibility. Civic Merkaji asks, this is regarding the price of the Mini LED iPad Pro 2021. Assuming that it's a bit more expensive technology than LCD, don't you think the 12.9-inch iPad Pro might start a couple of $100 more than its predecessor's $1,000 starting price? Thanks. And I mean, I guess there is a chance of that, but in general, unless Apple's doing a full redesign of a product, they tend not to increase the starting price. If they were going to do it, then they would probably rename it. It probably wouldn't be called the iPad Pro anymore, because people are used to the iPad Pro starting at $1,000. And then when you're adding a keyboard and a trackpad like the Magic Keyboard trackpad case, you're talking like $1,350 before you even move up a storage level. So I'd be surprised if they start it any higher than that. I think that's already pushing it. I know there's been rumours of Apple producing a new Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pros, so I do wonder if maybe it's going to be something that becomes bundled with them and it gets a slightly higher price, but it includes the trackpad and keyboard. But I think $1,000 is already pretty high, even though it is the huge one, the 12.9 inch. So we will see, but I would be surprised if the price goes up. I think it will be more likely to be that they manage to keep the pricing pretty much in line with where it is right now, although they're looking at also adding 5G modems, so maybe the cellular one is going to be more expensive than the current cellular, but they still have that starting price point of $1,000. That would be my guess. Tech Hyped asks, would you rather spend a year without your Mac but you've still got your iPhone, spend a year without your phone and you've got your Mac? Now this is one that I want to open up to the audience because it's a tricky question, this one, and I'm not 100% sure. I would probably keep my Mac purely because I do tend to have a lot of the video content that I watch. It tends to be on the Mac. I like to have the big screens. I've got a couple of screens here, and also now because I've got an M1 Mac, I can run iPhone and iPad apps on it if I need to. I do like the fact that I can go around. The problem would be for me that I film this show on my iPhone, so that would be tricky. So at this point, we can either edit the show but not film it, or film it and not edit it. So that makes it really tricky. But I'm opening this one up to the audience. You guys need to let me know which one would you do. Would you keep your phone or would you keep your Mac? But also, Tech Hyped is one of the guys that I chat to the most on Twitter. Tech Hyped, Apple Tomorrow, pretty much the kind of three of us talk all the time on Twitter. He is on just under 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. I am on 4,500-ish at the time of recording. So there's my live number right there. And I've decided to challenge him to a race to 10,000, purely because my channel was growing a little bit quicker, because I've not been around as long. So we're going to see. Social Blade thinks that it will take him 230 days to get there and me 298 days to get there. I think we can get there a bit quicker, but I need your help. So if you know anyone else that's into tech that doesn't watch this channel already, please let them know. Share this video on your social media. And also, if you've been watching for a while and you haven't hit subscribe yet, I would really appreciate it. There's only around about 15 to 20% of people that watch my videos that are subscribed. So if you're in that other big percent, because I don't do maths, hit the subscribe button today. I'd really appreciate it. On to the next question. Vic Thor Rose writes, enjoying your videos? With the talk of colours for iMacs and MacBooks in addition to the current colours on iPads and iPhones, do you think there's any possibility of Apple giving us anodized Mac Minis, not just space grey, but actual colours like green and blue from the iPad Airs? I do have an M1 Mac Mini, so I'm not going to be trading it up anytime soon, but it would be nice to have colourful options. Alternatively, have you ever heard of anyone making skins for Mac Minis? So I'll answer the second part first. Yes, there are definitely people that make skins out there. I don't use a huge number of different places for skins, but not for skins. There's not a huge number of places that I buy skins from, but Extreme Skins is the one that I've used in the past. They're based here in the UK. Not sure where you are, Thor. But here in the UK, these guys make some great stuff. They're the ones that wrapped, for example, my Apple Pencil. They wrapped my iPad with the red wrap on that. And also my iPhone 12 Pro Max, which I'm filming on right now. When I first got it, I decided to make it look a bit like an iPhone 4 because it's got that kind of style to it, and I quite like that look. So yes, you can certainly get skins. They've got a whole bunch on their thing, and I'm sure they ship pretty much wherever you are. To the first part, whether they will do colours, you mentioned anodizing particularly, and we talked about this a little bit. It looks like Apple wants to move to titanium for a lot of their stuff. I think that would probably be more likely for the MacBooks than for a Mac Mini. But I actually think there's a decent chance that Mac Minis will go into a completely different kind of housing fairly soon. May well not be aluminium, because I think they maybe are moving away from aluminium a little bit for some reason, even though they've now sort of nailed how to recycle it and use it in really efficient ways. But yes, if they stay with aluminium casings, I do think they will anodize it. That's a dead easy way for them to make a whole bunch of colours. If they don't though, I think they might well go to polymer cases. Probably, knowing Apple, they would do it and say it's kind of recycled C plastics that they've retrieved, that they've made these things out of. So I think they could still put a bunch of colours in there. It might be more like what we had with the iPhone 5C, if you remember way back in the day. Those kind of real like polycarbonate coloured cases. That could be quite cool as well for a Mac Mini. So it looks a bit more like an Apple TV, but in brighter colours. So we will see. Rico the MLG Pro asks, regarding the MacBook Colours, will there be Pacific Blue for MacBook Pro? Because it will make all the sense in the world, get the t-shirt, to carry over the iPhone 12 Pro colours to the MacBook Pros. And yeah, I think they may well do that sort of thing. I don't know what colours they're going to go for. The Pacific Blue, though, is a stainless steel colour. They can't necessarily put that onto aluminium. They may be able to put it, however, onto titanium, because the titanium is going to be dyed rather than anodized. So they've got a process where they add micropores that then absorbs the dye, and then it gets a kind of lacquer over the whole thing, which keeps it looking nice. So they could go for that style. I would not be surprised, though, if, as well as seeing titanium come to the MacBooks, maybe we end up with titanium iPhone Pros with the next generation instead of stainless steel. That could be a really cool thing, because a lot of people actually did mention that the iPhone 12 Pros are a bit heavy because of the stainless steel, but you could have a nice premium material in titanium that is also a bit lighter. Possibility. Praneeth Peris asks, after several months M1 got released, do you think buying an iMac 2020 for programming and video editing is a good idea? Nope. So I think I must have misread this when I read it in the comments, and now I've just read it properly, and I think I answered you, so I will head back to the comments and change that. But I think if you wanted an iMac, this is what you need. So this is cheaper than an iMac, faster than an iMac. The only thing it's missing is a webcam, but you can pick one of those up pretty cheap. So the setup that I have here, ignore the top display for now, but I have the M1 Mac Mini sitting behind here. Then I have a 40-inch TV, which cost £250. So we had £699 for the Mac Mini, £250 for the TV, which basically brings us for a 4K TV, basically a 4K display that's way bigger than an iMac, so you can actually do more with it, because the smaller 27-inch screens, even when you've got a 5K display, by default they kind of work as a retina display, so it kind of pixel doubles everything, so you don't get any more screen real estate than you do on this one, which had 2560 by 1440 display. You get that, but with nicer looking images. I'm much happier with this at full native 4K resolution, so I can basically fit 4 1080p windows onto this display. So if you were looking for an iMac right now, I would say if you were going for the 21-inch, then you could be starting at $1,100, I think it is, for the base level one, but that doesn't even come with 4K, that comes with a 1080p screen. For a 5K 27-inch iMac, I think you're looking somewhere around $1,800. So you could get this for much, much less and still buy yourself a really good webcam, like a 4K webcam, which you won't be getting on an iMac. You can get up to 1080p. And some nice speakers for way under the price, and you can spend a little bit of cash on whether you want to get Final Cut or you want to get whatever else you want. Some really lovely speakers, a nice desk to put it all on. That would be the way I would go. Estatorios Maximos asks, I've been trying to make my Final Cut Pro experience better for a long time, but what is better about plugins? Do you have any good free plugins to recommend? So there's only a few that I use. The website that I go to is Lino Effects. I think it's .com. I'll put the link down in the description as well. But I've used some titles from there in the past. I've kind of moved away from those a little bit now, and I tend to use the stuff that's built into Final Cut Pro. They've added some new stuff with Final Cut 10.5, which is the version for Apple Silicon and for the M1 chip. But I do tend to do my color grading kind of manually. I tend to just use built-in titles now. I'm just trying to kind of cut down on all the kind of bells and whistles, because if you use a whole bunch of different kind of transitions and overlay effects and all of this sort of stuff, it just kind of becomes look at all the effects that I have rather than being about the content. The only effects that I kind of use, I use one of the generators for a background, which is called Converge, which is the one that we have the purple with the pills floating around on it that I tend to overlay with our own graphics. And I use the typewriter title, and I use a mosaic transition between the graphics that we use, just because it makes it look a little bit more fancy and techy. But I don't want it to become like glitchy and kind of cyberpunk, because that's not really what we do here. We're just talking about cool Apple stuff that I think we all like. So yeah, I don't really use a huge number. Lino Effects, or they have a whole bunch of free stuff that you can download, and it's really quite good. I've used some of their transitions and their titles and stuff in other stuff, and actually this one that I'm just using to show you all my other social media here, that's one of theirs. It's called the Social Growth Tool or something like that, I think. But yeah, and it's all free stuff, and it's really cool. So definitely recommend them. Okay guys, that's enough for this video. I will catch you in the next one. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because I really need to beat Tech Hyped. Road to 10,000. Let's take it to the moon! Stonks.